Bacon is my thing. Gotcha. Should be, yes. There we are. Okay. Now, since we had to kick everybody out and come back. All right. Can you hear us now? Let me see. Yeah, it's not picking you up. Hold on. There we go. Now it should be picking you guys up.
All right.
All right.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now it should be picking you guys up.
Yeah, finally. All right. You coming through?
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Very nice.
Yeah, finally.
There we are.
All right. Nice.
Now we can restart. Say all the things you just said a little bit ago.
Finally. Wow. Okay. So now that we're finally here, we can finally be heard.
You're in for it now.
I'm going to give a bit of a recap of what we were talking about before we found out that me and Rob couldn't be heard this whole time.
It doesn't matter. It was in the past.
I was talking into the wind.
It doesn't matter. It was in the past.
Yeah. So we were discussing Helldivers 2, and for those who pay attention to gaming news, may or may not have seen headlines of like Helldivers 2 loses 90% of its player base. And that's like it's a headline that makes people think like the game is dead, but that's kind of not entirely true.
Clickbait.
Several reasons. One, games usually lose a large portion of their player base a couple of months after launch. That's very normal. And like there are a couple like actual criticisms though. Some of them being like there's been a bit of a lack of like variety for Helldivers 2. We're still fighting just two enemy factions after all this time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the game's pluses that's not overly grindy is another contributor, unfortunately, to its lower player base because people kind of like finish and then they move on. But that means that they probably will be back when the game comes out with another major content update. Their new missions or even a new enemy type. They'll probably bring back a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, and with how big its initial player base was, like hundreds of thousands of people playing concurrently, losing 90% of that, they're still floating around like, I don't know, I think around like 30,000 to 40,000 concurrent players usually.
Yeah,
which is still
around there.
That's still a fairly healthy player base.
Oh, absolutely. Like 30 to 40,000 people. That's a ton of people.
Even us talking about this right now it's kind of confusing what the message is, because the title itself is essentially a bunch of bullshit that they're losing their player base. That's not necessarily true, especially not 90%. There's the clarification piece there is they're talking about concurrent players, so people that are playing at the same time, not like total player base.
And frequently.
Right.
Like, and again, that circles back to kind of what I was talking about, apparently with the air, because nobody could hear me, is that the whole live service piece. I mean, again, we've talked about that before on the stream, but it's permeating everything. It's permeating the entire industry, and even some TTRPG companies, one in particular, is starting to pick up some of these kind of video game habits, and we'll talk about that a little later. But a perfect example is Ghost of Tsushima, which, guys, correct me if I'm wrong. It's a single player game. It's not a multiplayer game.
Yeah, it's
And you have to have a PlayStation Network account, and you have to be logged in. So you have to be online to play a single player game. Why? Why the fuck do I gotta be online for? It's a single player. I'm not playing with anybody. Why? And I'm sure there are fucking reasons for it, and probably most of them are asinine reasons. But this whole, again, well, we need players online all the time. You have to be online all the time. You have to be connected, yada yada yada, all that shit. And then the reason why I'm annoyed with it, and I think a lot of people are annoyed with it, for various reasons, but for the purposes of this conversation, is the fact that now the metrics have shifted for what success is, or for what's not a dead game, as people are like to call it nowadays, is focused towards that concurrent player base, that always online piece. Well, if you have less than this level of player base, your game is dead. And it's a nothing burger, as Greg was saying. It's disingenuous. It's not true. Do less people play your game than they did at the beginning? Yes. Guess what? Here's a fun fact that I don't think the higher ups at the gaming industry have wanted to fucking accept. That happens to every game. Happens to every game. After the hype dies down in your game, people will probably still play, maybe not play as much, or they'll move on to other things. Gone are the days when we could sit there, play a game, enjoy the game for what it is, and happily put it down. Maybe to come back later, maybe not. But you can happily put it down, go do something else. And I think that's just the mentality of the industry as a whole. And as I was saying, when we figured out we nobody was listening, or nobody could hear us rather, there's only literally one person I've said, one person who's actively said, who's responded to that. And I'm sure he's not the only one, but the individual I'm talking about is the creative director of Final Fantasy XIV, Yoshi P, or Naoki Yoshida. Call him Yoshi P, for short. Love the guy. He's a gamer. He's a creative. He's a gamer first, though. He loves video games, and it shows, because his response, that question was asked to him by a fan in a live letter that they did. This was a couple of years ago, and basically I'm paraphrasing, but the question was, Yoshi P, when we're done with the content, when I've caught up, when I've max level or item level or gear level, whatever it is, what do I do? I want to continue to play Final Fantasy XIV. I love the game, but once I've done everything, what do I do? And his response, still to this day, this is the ideology, and this is the kind of the vision I want to live by as a creator. Go do something else. He's like, go play other games. There's so many other, like these were his words. Go play other games. There's so many other great games out there. Go enjoy them. Go out, spend time with your family. Go take a break. Go outside. Go do something else that brings you joy. This game will always be here when you're ready to come back. When a new update comes, when a new content patch comes through, come back and play. But you don't always have to be here.
Yeah, right. That's an admirable standpoint, especially when you consider most other like live services and MMOs that try to keep you there, like as much as they possibly can. They want you back every single day.
They try to tie you in.
They try to tie you in because essentially they want you always around, so you can essentially be exposed to their monetization. So that the more you're around their storefront, the more likely you are to pay some money to it. So that's one reason why a lot of these games are extremely grindy. It takes longer to get things, not just to encourage you to buy those things that you have to otherwise grind for, but also just to keep you around longer, and like in general.
And here's the thing: it's not even done in a fun way either.
Oh yeah, some of those designs aren't entirely designed around fun. It's about engagement. Just they just want you there, regardless if you're really having that good a time or not.
I'm
And
actually gonna push back on your verbiage there, Matt. It's not about engagement. Engagement is the bullshit piece that they're selling. Because in my mind, engagement equates to, and again, the implication is you can take this one of two ways. Engagement can be bad engagement because it's still engagement, but obviously the implied engagement from their end is you're having fun, which is bullshit because most of the time this engagement they're talking about is artificial and it's crap. It's not value focused engagement. It's just to keep your ass in the seat. So, and the reason why I'm pushing back is I want to be clear. It's just to keep your ass. Let's call spade a spade. It's bullshit. It's not actual value focused engagement. It's just, hey, let's make something for these guys to come back to. Let's lean in on the psychological aspect of FOMO, which audience guys, I don't understand that. I don't understand the FOMO piece. Like arbitrarily, analytically, I can look at it. Okay, I understand what they're getting at, but I don't get it. I honestly, genuinely don't understand it. I don't think I ever will. Because if I'm not playing a game that everybody like, I'm not playing Elden Ring. I love Elden Ring. I'm not playing the DLC right now. I don't give a shit. I don't care. I'll play it when I get to play it.
well, I think one thing that's a bit different is that Elden Ring, for the most part, is a single player game. Yes, it has its multiplayer aspects, but you can play through that thing entirely single player. FOMO, like fear of missing out, is mostly something that comes around when there's a multiplayer community.
And here's the thing: I get wanting to play with your friends. I just don't get the psychological aspect of fear of missing out. I don't understand it.
You see all your friends with this fancy thing. You're like, oh man, maybe I should have logged in yesterday so I could have gotten fancy thing. Again, like it depends on the person if they're susceptible to that kind of thing.
That's the disgusting piece that a lot of the gaming industry is playing on. Is that, because that is, I mean, now I do understand to a degree why the World Health Organization has classified gaming as an addiction, because that's what the gaming industry is preying on, is those addictive personalities and individuals. Hence the fear of missing out thing. Again, I understand it from a psychological standpoint. I just, as a person who plays video games, who loves video games, I've never felt that. And even if I log on to a game that I love, if I miss something, I mean, for like a couple seconds, I'm like, oh shit, I should have got that, but it quickly fucking fades. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna go enjoy the game. I don't get it. I don't. But anyway.
I mean, that
sorry,
just means
I didn't mean to interrupt.
Person it works.
No, it really doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it many times before on the podcast that game design is psychology. Like game design at its core is you're using human psychology to try to guide the player along a certain kind of experience. How you use shapes and colors, or the way you make a path, to try to guide someone somewhere, try to tell them what this thing does even before you explicitly say it. Game design uses a lot of psychology. And of course now we see the dark side of that with psychological techniques being used to encourage the buying of microtransactions and all that other stuff. It's I don't know. It's unfortunate that the games industry is coming that way, which is why it's been refreshing to see in the past several years some standout developers that don't do that same type of shit. We've talked about them playing before, From Software, Larian Studios, even the people at Arrowhead Games for Helldivers 2. While they are a live service, from everyone that I've heard talk about it, they treat their monetization a lot more respectfully. You know what I mean? Respectfully, it's like respecting the player. Like shit doesn't feel like it's overpriced like you might expect from, say, Blizzard or Bethesda. Things aren't overly grindy to where like it takes ages to get a very simple thing. You know, that's and we've been seeing this. Like even if Helldivers has lost a lot of that initial hype, next time they come out with something big, they're probably going to regain a lot of that. But like we've been seeing it time and again lately, past several years, that when a game comes out that isn't about that bullshit, it finds a lot of success. Because people are tired of that stuff. Frey Brand, it's actually still fun while you're playing Grand Game. Are you still playing it, Frey? I'm curious because I know you're big into that launch.
Yeah.
Are you still kind of like regularly playing the game? But yeah, like, and it is generally a good game. Like it's fun. It doesn't feel like you're sticking around because it's like, you're just on the grind, almost like this, like playing it out of habit, more just like you actually want to play, because I think most people have come across a time where like you've been playing a game for a while and it's like, it's not really having fun. It's just like
this is a habit now.
It's like a habit,
Yeah. And it's
for a bit, I was like that way with Elder Scrolls Online.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just doing things. I'm making, I guess, money in the game. Eventually, I'm like
engaging in other ways as well.
Eventually, it's like,
engaging in other ways.
Am I still having fun with this game, or am I just doing it to do it?
Yes, I do know.
Yeah.
So I'll say kudos to the games that manage to make people stick around because they're just that damn fun. You're not doing it because they tricked you into feeling like you're obligated to do so, like daily login rewards or a lot of the other live service tactics, because a lot of them do make you feel like that way, like you're obligated to come back and play. You're on and off.
Well, most games are designed exactly that way. I mean, that's just part of it, is keeping people engaged with the game. They're not going to spend money on it if they're not engaged in it.
Yeah,
and you see that very, very commonly in games where that I just I remember like games like Mortal Kombat and stuff like that from years ago, which I mean Mortal Kombat's still out there, but it's for lack of a better way to describe it right now, I'm going to say it's a form of mental masturbation. It's really what it is.
Yeah, you're not wrong. And
what do you
again, yep. And here's the thing for me, it's like, okay. Again, as I was saying earlier, I think this is during the time when you guys can hear us. But gone are the days when you can play a game and beat it, or get to the end point and happily put it down and put it away, and move on to something else, and maybe circle back, replay it again or whatever. But gone are those days, and the obviously everything is going to change. Everything is going to grow and alter. Grow might be a stretch for some of the things that the gaming industry has done, but we'll go with it. But change would be a better way, because I don't know if there's been growth there, positive growth anyway, in some cases. But yeah, there's going to be change all the time. But the fact that, again, the metrics for success are so tied into what I amount to a revolving door. You always want those players circling back, or never leaving. It's
like
too much of a good thing is become a bad thing, is in my mind. Like it's like too much of any one thing. Like take any game.
The games become
It's-
less focused on you about that creativity piece and more focused on how do we continue to get you to spend money on the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And that's where I think they fall apart. That's where it becomes, it's monotonous because the things that you're doing, and yeah, the old grindy experience of where it used to take you forever to get a certain thing, but at the same time, there's a sense of accomplishment for some people with that. That I had to actually work for this. Now I'm not saying you should have to grind for 100 hours to get some simple little thing, but the fact that you had to actually do something for it and be dedicated to getting it is I think that's a worthwhile piece of the game.
No, I agree. I agree. Like a little bit of grind, a little bit of obtaining a better skill at the game. Getting. I mean, I cannot to use a term, but getting good at a game. Understanding the game, the nuances, the I don't want to say the best strategies, but understanding good strategies, because you don't necessarily need the best sometimes, but you need good strategies. But doing
Yeah.
those things, I mean, obviously that's dedication, time and dedication that as a designer we need to implement in our games to reward players for that.
Oh yeah.
But I would never want to, as a designer and developer, ever put in play. And these are, here's the thing, these aren't even like secondary or even tertiary design these are core design philosophies to keep asses in the seats.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, like, you definitely always want to, reward your players, for the effort they put into something. Whether that's like a material reward or like, give them some sort of like rating, like, hey, yeah, this is S rank.
My reward to them is get good, scrub.
Pretty much. But but like there's rewarding the players' efforts for whatever they're doing. Then there's stretching that reward out farther and farther away, and like that, there's that lack of it. It changes the way the satisfaction is received, and because you got to make sure that if they're putting in more effort, it's a bigger grind. Are you going to get as much satisfaction from the reward? Like normally you'd have to up that reward, to correlate with the amount of time that they're putting in to get it. So if you're putting in like hours and hours of something, that reward better be damn good. And I think that's one thing where a lot of live services are kind of lacking, where it's like you're putting in hours and hours.
Here's your cookie. Now get lost.
Pretty much, and it's designed in a way simply not to. It's designed so that it's just simply there to keep you there longer, not to be like actually satisfying. But they put like some pretty lights around the reward when you get it. Some confetti and shit, and that gives you kind of like this dopamine. It's the same thing with with essentially gambling. Go to the slots. You hit the jackpot. All these lights start going everywhere. It gives people this dopamine. It's part of like the psychology and why casinos are the way that they are, and you can actually find some of those same principles here in video games.
You can, absolutely. And the sad part about the casinos, and in particular like slot machines, is that you get the big fancy loud sounds and bright lights, and you get all the hype and the dopamine hit, and then you look at it and you're like, all that for $2? What?
Yeah, I mean, there's reason to say the house always wins. Like statistically, the way the odds are set up, you are designed to lose things. If you actually make money at a casino, then you were really fucking lucky that day, my man. Like, serious.
Yeah.
But most of the time, you're going to be losing money.
Here's the thing.
We do not promote gambling, just FYI. Nice call out there, but.
And that's the thing. There's an attributed and inherent there's a negative outlook towards the gambling piece because of everything that comes with it.
Well, because
But
that can be
go ahead.
very destructive. That's the thing, and the sad part
It's no
is
joke.
right, and that's the saddest part about it is that gamification has really come into the video game industry as well, and for the same purpose, to get you to
Yep, for the
spend
same
more
exact
money.
purpose, and no, and no,
Oh, yeah.
and not only do the vast majority of people playing games don't have a problem with it, probably because they don't realize it, but the industry, the people in the industry do it, like they're doing this, purposely doing this. They're like, okay, no problem. Do you have no
Yeah,
fucking shame?
yeah, it's one of the reasons why I'm glad like governments around the world, of course not here in the States, but like UK, I think even Australia or other parts of Europe, really crack down on the loot boxes in gaming. You don't see that as often these days anymore. That's because certain major markets in the world said, "Hey, you can't sell your game here if you're doing that shit." And obviously,
Yeah.
these big companies, they're like, well, we don't want to lose this huge market. We're going to have to change. That's kind of why we see the battle pass system. The battle pass system kind of replaced loot boxes in a lot of ways, which, of course, battle pass system does have its own problems,
Yep.
but at least you're not like loot boxes were essentially just hitting the slots. You had no idea what was going to come out of that thing. You were paying
And
money
more often
for
than
it.
not, it was garbage.
It-
I mean,
yeah,
there was a
pretty
company
much.
in Korea actually that got that. I'm pretty sure they got sued. I can't remember off the top of my head who it is or what game it is. I want to say it was Maple Story. I think it was No, it was in Maple Story 2. I think it was Maple. Don't quote me, Maple Story. Don't come for us. I'm again. I think it's y'all. If it's y'all, well, you earned it. But I believe it was Maple Story 2. That basically it amounted to the loot boxes had a literal 0% chance of dropping what people want. It was a literal
Oof.
0% chance. Zero. You weren't going to get it. But the devs never said anything.
Ooh, now that's pretty bad. If that was,
Yeah.
I believe that someone would do that at some point.
Yeah,
If
and
it's
it
Maple
was
Story
a
2,
company in Korea. I
shame on
think it
you
was Maple
guys.
Story if they're from Korea, but I know it was an issue in Korea, and yeah, the company is either gotten sued or they're in the process.
What if I didn't
Yeah,
run?
like
What if I'm not a coward?
and Peter,
What if
like
I
that's
want them to?
and again, I don't want
What
to
if I
fucking
want
get on
them to
soapbox and
try?
shit like that. But the fact that people, people who are developing these games in the industry just feel like no issue with doing. I'm sorry for me. If I was on that team, I'd be like, nah, I'm not doing that. I mean, would it cost me
Well,
my job? Probably, but I couldn't do it.
yeah, that's
I
the unfortunate thing.
I could not do that.
Right.
I couldn't. I mean, I'd leave that company definitely, but I couldn't do that because.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you could play devil's advocate and be like, well, they're adults; they can do what they want, or they should, they should know better. There's so many arguments you can make against. Just the same way you can make the arguments against alcoholics and drug addicts. They're adults; they should know better.
Well, here's
But
the thing.
people are
You're
people.
making this argument about adults, but we're talking about video games.
And well, yeah,
a lot of the
Kids.
people buying loot boxes were kids,
children who don't know better.
That's the thing. Like, casinos are regulated. You aren't bringing a child into a casino. That child cannot gamble legally. But here you had like FIFA, NBA. You had kids buying these loot boxes, these card packs, or whatever. And there was one NBA 2K game. I forget which year it was, but their system for like loot boxes, it literally was like a fucking slot machine in the game. Just
not even trying to hide it.
It's like, come on, aren't you gonna try to hide it a little bit?
Not even trying. Not like, nah. You know what? We're hiding in plain sight, baby. They would never think twice. Yeah,
Yeah,
and again,
so-
I mean, I know I'm sounding preachy here.
You're not really winning anything.
Yeah, it's just wild to me. It's wild that there are just people that, yeah, I'm gonna do this and it's okay. But anyway, getting off the soapbox, moving on. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Props
honestly,
again.
I guess.
Props
Go
again
ahead.
to the real studios out there that aren't doing this stuff. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Props
Larry
to
and
y'all for.
Arrowhead treats live service right.
Yeah.
FromSoft, and as
And here's the
problematic
thing.
as Nintendo is, at least they don't pull this shit.
Yeah, I mean they have
They're
their own problems, but
old-fashioned,
yeah,
and that has good points and some bad points. But you know
yeah,
what? They, I'd say for the
yeah.
most part, they're better than a lot of these other.
Shout out to as Matt said, shout out to the studios and the folks out there who respect the players. It ain't trying to just put forward content that's there to just pad the numbers and keep people coming back. Respect to y'all that you're actually trying to add value, not just get your way into people's pockets. And this also circles to
Well, wait,
the TTRPG space as well.
hold on just a moment on that. I had a couple questions for you guys because
Okay.
we're talking here about, I mean, what we are assuming malicious intent. Now, I'm not saying that there's not malicious intent, but some. Here's the thing with this.
Let me reply to that. I'll reply to that once you're done. I'll reply to that one.
Okay. So here's the thing. Here's the question that I have for you.
Okay.
Do you want a game that does not inspire you to keep coming back? Is that what you're saying you want?
No, there's a difference.
Okay. So what's the
There's a
difference?
And that circles back to my answer. My answer for your first question is I agree. It's not inherent malicious intent, at least not anymore. And what I mean by that is, and again, what you said is probably malicious intent towards the top, towards the money people, because their only care is money, and if they see a thing that's making them more money, they're gonna move towards that.
That's typically what their job is.
And again, that's
Yeah.
what their job is, but the argument can be made slightly malicious because they don't care about anything else. They're there to make money. Roger that. I'm not going to harp on that anymore. Their job is there to make that business more money. Cool. We can accept that. And what I mean by and then the other half of that is it's not malicious intent anymore because it's so commonplace. This aspect of we keep people coming back, we keep players, feeding into that, feeling the psychological aspect of FOMO. We keep players gambling, even though we're not calling it gambling anymore, because they're playing for all these things that have an inherent RNG, and most of the RNG is fucking low as shit. Like those systems are now so commonplace anymore. They're core design philosophies, period, across the board. Now, the answer to your second question, do I want a game that inspires me to continue to play? Of course I do. And you have examples of that. You have Baldur's Gate 3. You have Elden Ring. That they created a good game that people are going to want to play. And people have already played. But they don't make it so... Number one, they don't inherently put those kind of FOMO mechanics and shit like that into the game. If you put it down, most people that I've talked to, they can put down the game after they beat it once or twice, move on to something, and that's cool. And they can circle back if they want to. There are examples of people out there who have made such depth in their games that players will play it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours on end.
World
when
of
it's time to
Warcraft.
put it down, World of Warcraft. They're kind of
MMOs are
middle there.
again, MMOs are live services. Like
MMOs are
they are live services.
MMOs are live service. But World of Warcraft, depending on who you ask, have oscillated between really especially initially providing that value that we've talked about a number of times to the player in return for their time and money. And they've oscillated between that and recently, not providing value but still wanting all your fucking money. Now, depending on who you ask, they might be somewhere in the middle. They're getting better, but there's still areas to fix. So that's an example. And yeah, live service, again, I'm not saying live service, for my opinion, is not inherently bad. It's not inherently bad because it does build community. Well, that's subjective.
I mean,
There
yeah,
is
true. That
there
is
is objective
subjective.
points to be made in that comment, Matt, but for the most part, it's subjective. There's objectivity in that subjective piece, but for the most part, it's subjective. But I think one objective thing that we can all agree with is value for time and money spent. And again, that's going to look different for everybody. That's going to look different for every game. And only we as people can answer that. And here's the thing: we as people, we as gamers and consumers, are answering that piece, and it's clear that people are pissed off about it, about the constant live service, especially in games that they don't need to be, like single player games. Why do I have to log on to my PlayStation Network account, or even have a PlayStation Network account when I'm playing a fucking single player game?
Yeah, like let me point out like 2 games right now,
Oh, sure.
because I'm looking at like the Steam concurrent player list.
Hopefully that
So
answers your
obviously these
question,
are
Greg.
I got lots of
These are-
questions, but
Oh, I'm sure you do.
because this is kind of in that same conversation of games that manage to convince people to keep playing or come back to playing without resorting to a lot of the manipulation that you see in other like live service games.
And also,
These games
the
I'm
audience,
talking about
Sorry,
aren't
guys who are
even live
listening,
services.
chime in, please.
So right now you have number 14 on Steam's concurrent player charts. Baldur's Gate 3. Right now it is sitting at 60,000 players. Like right now.
How many?
69,000. Nice.
Okay, nice.
And right below it is Stardew Valley. This is a game that came out in 2016, and it's got 66,000 people playing it right now.
well,
And how
some of these
games-
things don't really account for taste, though. I mean,
Hey,
Hey,
somebody clip
don't-
that. Somebody clip that.
we were talking about
chill.
things being subjective, but it's crazy to hear Greg make such an objectively wrong statement here.
Okay to be wrong, Greg. It's all right to be wrong.
But
yeah, I'm wrong
you know.
a lot. I'm okay with that.
yeah, these are both games that they aren't live services. They aren't full of microtransactions. They don't even have like paid DLCs. They're both just really good games that people genuinely enjoy playing, and by those merits itself keeps people coming back. Stardew Valley at least has been continued to be supported by its developer for a long time. Like it still gets updates to this day. Like 8 years later after its release, I'm pretty sure the developer for that has said like this is his life's project. Like he's working on other games. I think there's one development right now, but he definitely intends to keep this one going and just updating it and just keeping it alive.
It is one of those addictive games, because there are certain games that once you play them, you may not play them all the time, but you will continually go back to them.
Oh yeah, like every couple of years, I've gone back to Stardew Valley several times. Terraria is another one of those games where it's like, they still update that, and people go back to it, when the new update comes out. That game right now has 25,000 people playing. Like, these are games that are getting people back by their own merits, not by using the bad psychology of game design to like make people just sort of stay without necessarily having fun, but these make people stay because they are having fun. Like they do find this enjoyable. They aren't missing out on anything if they choose not to play that day.
Well, Stardew Valley isn't expensive either.
Oh yeah. Stardew Valley and Terraria, they're indie games. There's a low barrier to entry there, so like the amount of gameplay you can get out of those things is, when we talk about value, that's insane value that those two games give you.
Yeah. Yep. That is very much a lot of value.
The other thing I can say, one more thing I can say about Stardew Valley is it is typically a game that people play together.
it's good single player, but like most games, doing something co-op does make it a little more fun. Just having a bit of teamwork, just talking with your buddy as you're playing it.
Stealing their rocks and their trees.
I mean, that's just not the Stardew Valley. It's the Stardew Valley vibe. You have the same plot of land. Your team pretty much share resources. If you're hoarding resources away from your fellow on Stardew Valley, you're not playing it right.
See how long it takes for them to die as you hoard away all the resources.
I'm pretty sure you share your money too. So I guess there is that possibility for that one friend to be like, to just spend all your money. Like, what the fuck did you spend your money on?
Don't ask questions.
Things and stuff. That's what I spent it on.
No. Don't ask questions you don't want answers to, Matt.
Yeah, those are games that keep people coming back truly by their own merits, like in a very much more positive way than like this FOMO attitude, daily logins making you feel like you really have to come back or you're missing something. That's I call those things like if we're going to use that term engagement, that I call that like a negative engagement that makes you feel like you're obligated to come back and play, as opposed to other games that have positive engagement where you go back because you want to, not because you've been like essentially tricked to feel like you have to.
Yeah, you've been kind of again coerced. That's what it is for me. It feels like you're being coerced to continuously go back. And again, yes, I mean, again, we're all each in charge of our own actions. So
I think there's a bit in there with that. I'm not saying that those distinctions are wrong by any means, but I mean, yeah. There's a bit of both things. Coercion being the this for that sort of thing, okay, and I would say for you truly to be coerced means that it's not necessarily good for you, okay. And then talking about habit versus want, okay. Yeah. You have, in a sense, you have to want to do something to form a habit.
True.
And then to continue to do it, there has to be some form of desire there. Even for a habit, there has to be some form of desire there. And unless you're speaking about it from from the case of a mental condition or a medical condition, that could be different. Yeah. But when is it malicious? In other words, is it being created specifically to get something from you? Okay, and in the case of like we're talking about the gambling thing, absolutely. The value that's being provided to you is it's obviously something you've decided that you want. Otherwise, you wouldn't continue to spend the money on it. Now, can that be abusive? Absolutely, because there's other factors there. I don't want to go too far down that path because you could say all sorts of things in that space. But when it comes to providing value in a game, okay, now a game like Stardew Valley, I'm not sure. I don't think Stardew Valley has any further monetization besides buying the game, does it?
No, you just buy the game and that's it.
Right. So I mean, and that's
not even any DLCs.
Right, and that's a traditional. You know what I mean? That's the kind of game I grew up with. I go and either one, I go to an arcade game where you got to pop a quarter in and you get to play for either timed game where you only get to play for so long and you have to put another quarter in, or you play until you're out of lives and then you have to put a quarter in to have more lives. The gamification piece to it. where there's an incentive for you to spend more money on it. And the more addicted you are to the game, so the more you've developed a desire to play that game, the more money you're going to spend on it. I think personally, now some games are really good in the respect that they have a lot to draw you back into it and to keep you playing. But I think more and more what I see with the newer games is that they're designed with one overarching plot line, which if you just sit down and hammer it out, you're going to play for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
And you're done. Now, there's a lot of other little things that are out there, but there's one main story, and that main story is not it's not necessarily tied into other things in the game. You just have this playthrough concept, and you see that happen a lot. And I'm rolling this back around to the Helldivers thing, where it comes to people. When the game is first released, you're going to get a lot of players because that's exactly that's the motivation that we've created, is beat the game. I'm going to get this game so I can beat it. That's the idea. I want to play it through so that I can beat it. And you see that happen a lot. Brand new game hits the market, especially if it's a good game, and you get a whole bunch of people buy the game so they can play the game, and as soon as they've played through the game, done. On to the next one. Doesn't mean they're not going to come back and play that game again. If it's a good enough game and it's been able to, the player's been able to form some sort of connection with it and be like, hey, you know what? I really enjoy just playing this game. Yeah, I know I beat it, but I'm okay to sit down and play for a couple hours here and there. Maybe blow an afternoon on it or something like that. Those are the good games. Whether they're whether they're over monetized or not is also a question. I honestly don't believe that putting, especially when it comes to video games, unless it's a DLC which completely expands the universe that you're playing in, I don't think that putting things behind a paywall with the intent of creating a pay to win environment that's malicious.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah, I will 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah,
because
pay to
you're
win definitely
essentially unlocking content for me to have to pay when I've already paid you. I've and that's the thing. Nowadays, I've already paid the full box price. I've already paid the full box price. I already paid my 60, 70. I mean, hell, they plan on making games go up to 80 or $100. I've already paid my full box. Now you want me to dump another? And here's the thing: most of those DLCs aren't fucking cheap, or the content pieces aren't cheap. I think the lowest we've seen it was from Matt. You might remember the game. I can't remember it off the top of my head. It was like $3. Oh, so it was Starfield. And those are mods. Yeah, that's right. It's like $3 or $7 for one quest.
Oh yeah, they're $7. They're $7 quest.
$7
quest. Let's circle back to that.
Such value! Wow.
Yeah, the DLC piece. These DLCs, irregardless of their size, most of them are fucking $20, $30, and they're small. They're like maybe a couple hours at best. Meanwhile, you got From Software, again, a company's doing it right, who gave you a DLC that was as large, if not larger, than the base fucking game for $40. Think about that. They gave you a second game for $40.
Yeah, well, it's
and this isn't for me. I haven't played it yet. I've listened to a ton of people who have, whose job it is to play these games, and they're like, yeah, this is almost a whole new game. It's not okay. It's not as large, but it's almost as large as the base game. They gave you a whole other game for $40.
Yeah. So $40 is a good bit, but from everything I understand, the amount of content you're getting out of Shadow of the Erdtree it's worth it. Like, it's not as big as the entire game, but it's definitely
a lot.
You definitely got
a lot of hours. Yeah, you're getting, I think, for most people, from the general consensus, you're getting about 20 to 25 hours 20 to 25 hours. That's if you're playing. That's if you're like go zooming. Think about that. 20 to 25 hours of
Most people
game
aren't
time. And
zooming.
that's if you're moving.
Yeah, a lot of
Easily
other people are.
twice that.
Yeah, a lot of
If you're
people
taking
take
your
their time, explore,
Experience
do
the game.
optional things.
Right.
Yeah,
So like
It's
for
like-
me, it's all the bullshit of we have to pay for this. We need all of that. To me is bullshit. All that to me is well, we need to charge this for this, or you need to have a battle pass. All that's bullshit. Utter fucking bullshit. Because you
agree.
have another studio who's as large as most of these other AAA studios, who's as well known, and they always put out, and they don't care about making every dime, because they know they put out something good, that the people that want to play their game, they're gonna get that money anyway. They focus on putting out something of quality, they're gonna get that money anyway. And they're not the only. The thing that continuously blows my mind, and maybe I'm fucking stupid or something, I don't know. Probably though. Is that they're not the only fucking example. They're not the only studio doing this, and are act like people are like, well, you can argue these money people. Well, we need proof that this works. You have fucking proof, again and again and again, from multiple different fucking studios. You put out quality, you get paid.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. It's about money, like just kind of plain and simple. Because
that argument doesn't
these-
fly with me no more.
well, it
Doesn't
doesn't
fly
apply
with me
with
no
you,
more.
but I mean, think about who's really running these companies. It's these boards of investors, and
Shut up and take my money.
what they want is money. That's what they're there for. They only care about the quality of the product to the extent that it still makes them money.
So I apologize, guys. I'm actually fighting back a migraine. It's probably why I'm so pissed off.
Yeah, I was like,
Well,
oh man, he's getting worked up there.
I'm a little angry. My head's
It's all right, man.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm into it. Go ahead.
This is definitely not even the topic of conversation we were supposed to be going down, but here we are.
you started us down this path after the Helldivers 2.
I did.
And
It's
this is
my
taking
fault.
up most of our time. Is it time to move on? Is it time to move on
It is.
to D&D
Let's move
stuff?
on. We beat this dead horse. No, let's move on.
Okay. Do
I
we want
apologize.
I don't know. This is kind of like the car wreck. You're on the interstate and there's a car wreck, and you're like watching to see what you could what's going on.
let's do a gradual transition from like bad to good. So start with like the less good part of the D&D news. And I think this is pretty a small thing out. I shouldn't say
Yeah.
small thing, but something that probably won't warrant too much discussion. And it's mostly about the pre-order package for D&D 2024.
It's awesome.
Hence what I said about the TTRPG picking up some video game habits. This is that.
Yeah.
Continue, Matt.
Yeah, because this thing, like, because what the deal that they got right now for this pre-order is essentially you pre-order, and when you pre-order, you essentially get all 3 books. So the player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual. You pre-order all of them, you get them for about $180 total, somewhere in that ballpark. Whereas if you didn't pre-order them and got them individually, they'd be $80 a pop, being $240 total. Which, that's a steep price.
Yeah, it's $80. It's almost double what they used to be worth. Because I remember getting the DMG, PHB, and the Monster Manual for the 2014 edition for roughly PHB and the Monster Man. Well, no, the PHB was like 40. I think the DMG and the Monster Manual, when I got them, MSRP was about 50, maybe 60. It wasn't that much more, but I got them on sale. But they were around that MSRP.
I think at the time when they came out, they were around like $50 for each book. So if you got all three, you'd be paying about $150.
For what?
Don't quote me on that.
For what?
That's according to like a Reddit thread that I
The
read.
2014 edition of the IV.
But if that number is true, this is definitely a fairly significant price hike. Not to say that D&D, like as far as TTRPGs goes, it is a big game. It's got a lot of things to it. So to some level, I can understand a high price point, but I don't know if this high is entirely warranted or if it's the good old Hasbro. Our company is failing. Please, Wizards, make us some money. We desperately need it. We're going to die.
Company is failing.
Yeah, bullshit. They made billions. They made what was it like? I want to say like 30 billion last year or some shit like that, or some stupid amount of money.
I mean,
like Hasbro as a parent company made.
Well, yeah, but Hasbro as its company outside of Wizards of the Coast, I believe their profits have gone year by year.
Well, so their sales have gone down. Now and that would equate to lower profits, but here's okay. I get disgusted anytime I listen to one of these companies come out with their quarterly report or their annual report and say, "Well, we only made $8 billion last year."
Yeah, only $8 fucking billion.
Only you only made $8 billion.
And here's the thing: a couple of hundred of that are going to go to the C-suite execs for their bonuses. You got individuals out there who are going to make, tens of millions of dollars. I
honestly, I don't care how much money they make. I don't care. I don't care how much money the C-suite people make. I don't care how much money that company makes. Just don't come back out and try and convince me that you're hurting, because that's bullshit.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what it boils down for me too. It's like just 8 billion.
Right. If you exactly. I mean, if you've got a whatever, even 100 million, you got 100 million in sales, okay, which is a small cap company at this point. You got 100 million in sales, and if you can't make that profitable, you're doing it wrong.
What are you doing? Yeah, what the fuck are you doing?
I mean, why are you even in business? Just get out of here. Let somebody who knows what they're doing do it, and go home. Go work for somebody else.
What are you doing? Because that's wild. Yeah. I completely agree, and I know very little about business. I'm learning through Greg and through what we've been doing. But yeah, if you can't turn that into a profit, like what?
Exactly.
What the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
And here's the thing: that was their quarterly. Was that quarterly earnings or quarterly profit? That 8 billion.
I think the 8 billion was the annual.
Annual.
Yeah, I think that was their annual profit.
Oh, annual profit. Okay,
yeah.
And that's a big distinction there, because total earnings and profit, different things. Meaning that 8 billion was what they made after paying everything off.
Right. That's what they reported as profit.
They're in the black. They're in the black, and they're over 8 billion.
Right. When you look at it from a numbers standpoint, here's the thing to understand with this. You look at it from a numbers standpoint. Okay, let's say last year you did 300 million in sales, and this year you're on a trajectory to only do 200 million in sales. Okay. Now from an accounting standpoint, that looks awful. I mean, your sales are down. You're hurting. This is bad news.
You're 100 million compared to last year.
Right, but that's traditional accounting. That's just how those things are looked at, and especially in a world where when you're looking at a lot of these companies are all publicly traded companies, so they have investors that they have to report to, and they've got to keep those value streams strong, otherwise people lose confidence in the stock and yada yada yada. Privately held companies can look at it a little bit differently, because they can look at that situation and honestly even decide, hey, you know what, we're just going to lose money this year. That happens a lot. Small companies where they'll just decide, we're just going to lose money this year. That's fine. It's not the end of the world. And it depends on how much you're dealing with. Now, if you're talking about a hobby business, a micro business, which is something that's, typically, well, under 10 million or 20 million dollars a year, those are very small companies. And for most people, you look at that like you and I are looking at $20 million. Holy shit. No, that's not a big company. It's a small company. But you still, even on that, I mean, if you're going to run a successful company, you have to run a profitable company. And even on a $20 million company, if you cannot run that company profitably, there's something wrong.
Yep.
You're doing it wrong.
Either you need to step
Right.
away or get somebody else to do the job
Right.
for you.
Or your concept, your product, it's just garbage. I mean, that's, you might as well just shut it down and sell it, because I mean, if you truly are in that situation where you just can't make money on that thing, then my first thought is you're doing it wrong. You're doing something wrong. That's why you're not making any money. But your best bet is to, rather than just completely lose everything, just sell it or shut it down. Get out of it.
Back to D&D and all that. And again, it's the pre-order thing that we've seen from the gaming industry, where it's starting to migrate into other, and so far as I know, I believe D&D are the only ones that are doing this whole pre-order bit. But this is the thing that pisses me off about the whole thing, aside from the pre-order shit, because that should never be. I'm sorry, I pre-ordered garbage. Is the fact that you're not getting anything for your pre-order other than a lower price. You're not getting anything extra. As far as I know, you are not getting anything to go with that other than a lower price point, which you can wait until it comes out, you see if you like it, and wait for it to go on sale.
Yeah, like while the lower prices, it's tempting, what you're ultimately doing is giving Wizards of the Coast your money before you even know what these things are look like. Like for the player's handbook, they've been doing all sorts of videos, so you have an idea, but we still don't know what the whole thing looks like.
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of the rules. They gave us a 5-minute nothing burger of the crafting system.
Yeah. Then there's of course the Dungeon Master's Guide and Monster Manual, which we know next to nothing about at this point. So why give them your money up front? Like the only thing where pre-orders kind of makes sense is when it's a physical good and there's scarcity to it, because at that point you're essentially trying to reserve your piece before they're all out. So there is a point to it there. I'm still not a huge fan of it, because I think if the supplier's doing things right, there would be enough for, there wouldn't be artificial scarcity to where most people should be able to get one very easily.
Yeah.
But for a digital good, that there is no scarcity. So there's no there's no consumer reasoning why it's good for you to pre-order. And they try to put in these other rewards, get these items or, a little bit off. But still, you're giving the money for something you haven't seen yet. And just I get the temptation. I faced it very recently myself when a game series that I really liked, the EDF series, their newest installment came out for pre-orders. It's like 10% off. Not a huge discount, I know, but I saw it and I was like, I was like, no, I have to stick to my guns because I haven't seen it yet. I want to be able to see a game, like how it actually looks.
Whoa. And I lost him. Hold on a minute. Get him back.
I think you're back.
Matt.
Am I great?
There you are. You are back. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I don't know. I don't know what happened. It just dropped you guys off the screen.
That's what it does. But yeah, I think pre-orders, they really don't.
You get a digital gold dragon with the pre-order.
A
A
digital
digital gold dragon.
Wow.
Wow.
Like a digital gold dragon, like just like a PNG
I've
or
always
something.
I've always wanted a digital gold dragon.
Wow, wait. But yeah,
So-
like it's
So what you're telling me is I get a nice shiny digital picture for my pre-order. Is that what you're telling me, Holy Pawn? That's what you're telling me.
You don't get shit for your pre-order. That's what you get.
Yeah, that's essentially what you're telling me. I don't get fuck all. Because that.
for virtual
Oh, okay,
tabletop.
okay.
Okay.
Here's your digital gold
Yeah.
dragon.
Listen, they
Some-
they try to
Somebody bring out the fireworks. We got a digital gold dragon, baby.
yeah.
Hey, I do
I'm not-
I
Unholy Pawn, I hope you know I'm not shooting the messenger. For real.
I do want to clarify something really quickly because I just threw some numbers out there earlier, so let me just give you the real numbers based on the annual report from Wizards of the Coast 2021 now, okay? So Wizards of the Coast 2021 surpassed 1 billion in sales for the first time in 2021. Wizards of the Coast net revenues overall for 2021 was 6.42 billion. And their operating profit was, what do you think?
I'm gonna say at least half of that.
No. Typically companies that are doing well, your operating profit is going to a company that's doing good is going to be 5 to 8%. Really well is anything above 10.
Gotcha, it's really well.
Yeah, I mean, yes, margin, absolutely. You could look at it from a margin standpoint. Say, okay, I'm buying something for $5 and I'm selling it for 10, so I got 50% there, or 100% margin. But then you also have all your capital expenses after that. That's just you're really just looking at cost of the good or service itself, and then cost of selling it.
Gotcha.
Now, Wizards obviously does a lot of print copy stuff, so they do have some large overheads.
Now they do. Now
But their profit for 2021, operating profit for 2021 was $547 million. So I mean,
still a lot of money.
if that's and 547 million. I mean, that's close to that half of that. Well, actually, slightly over the half of that 1 billion number. Yeah. But when you look at their total net revenues of 6.42 billion, it falls more in line.
Yeah, but the pre-orders. I think it's one of the things where I think consumers and gamers really need to kind of stick to their guns on this, because ultimately it really doesn't do anything for us, and
No,
it
the only-
it
the
only
only-
helps. It only helps the company because if you're selling something, what more could you ask than for someone to give you the money for the thing you're selling before you even hand it to them?
And here's the
Be
thing.
like, oh, I'll take your money now. Oh yeah, a couple months from now, yeah, I'll definitely give you that thing that I only vaguely told you about.
For me, the only time I would support pre-order. It's not even pre-order. It's a version of pre-order, but a better version, in my opinion. It's the early access piece that we're seeing on Steam.
Oh yeah,
It's typically with early access, your game is at the very least playable. Might not be perfect, but it's playable, and you get to see what you're getting, more or less. And here's the thing: most, not all, most of the individuals that have put out early access titles, we'll say a little over half. Say a little over half. So we'll say 55 to 60% of the individuals who have put out early access titles on Steam, and I think Steam is the only one that's doing it right now, but on Steam, we'll focus on them right now. You've had contact with the developers, and for the most part, they've listened. Now, why do you think BG3 is so fucking good? Because they were in early access. They listened to the players. Same thing with V Rising, a survival vampire horror game. They listened to the players. Did fantastic. There's a number of games out there that are in early access. Valheim just put out Ashlands. Now Ashlands got a little bit of mixed reviews. It's a little harder. I think some people are, you know, annoyed by that, but there might be some reason there. I haven't really looked into it as much, but I know there's been a little bit of a pushback on Ashlands, which is their latest, completely free. They completely made a whole new zone completely free. You don't have to pay for it, for free. Put it out there again. I think I'm pretty sure that's still in early access. Actually, ironically enough, Greg, you might find this interesting. 7 Days to Die is coming out of alpha officially. Finally. So, again, early access, while it is similar to pre-order in a way, is what you should be doing. Don't fucking do pre-orders, do early access. When your game is in a playable state, your piece of content is in a state where people can actively look at it, the systems, the core systems, the foundation of it, but put that out there and let people buy it at a lower price point, and then you can get active feedback for that shit. Stop with the pre-orders.
Yeah, well,
especially if you're putting out garbage.
Yeah, I mean, granted, something like early access, I feel like it's a little more difficult to do for a TTRPG. But when it comes to video games, at least,
well,
I am fine for the most part with the early access. I think it can still be abused, but it's a hell of a lot better than pre-ordering.
To be fair, and I'm gonna put this in D&D's favor and give them their feather for this one. TTRPGs, at least D&D does have a early access. It's a playtesting. It's Unearthed Arcana. That's their early access. And here's the thing, and this is the good side of this whole conversation about D&D, is they actually listened. Across the board, the metrics for the feedback off of the Unearthed Arcana, they did, I think, 8 or 9 playtests over the last year and a half, 2 years, I think, have been positive for all the classes, have been positive for all the rules and changes like that. So, and again, that's we're moving into the again from the whole pre-order shit, which I don't understand why they did. It's fucking stupid. But anyway.
Well, they do it because they want the money.
Yeah.
They want the money now as opposed to later.
Yeah, you're right. But moving off of that topic, from everything I've heard, all the reviewers, and these are reviewers who, this is their livelihood, so they're brutally honest. Positive across the board. Positive. Not everything is met well. Like the Rogue.
Are you 100% positive that these people are brutally honest? I mean, how can you honestly say that's their livelihood? So they're brutally honest when they're working for a major corporation at the same time.
Can I say with 100% certainty that they're being brutally honest? No, absolutely not. Of course they can't. However, the individuals I do agree that I do review, like Treant Monk and D4 Deep Dive, every time they've done a review on the current content, they always say, hey, I have signed an NDA with Wizards. They've been upfront with the contractual obligation that they have with Wizards, but they've also been upfront with saying they've also allowed me to be completely honest with my review of this piece of product. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, whether they're being honest about that, that's on them. But they've said it each and every time. So, and these guys, and again, they've put out some good stuff, and so far they haven't been wrong. So I'm going to take it with the due grain of salt. But I'm going to err on the side of they are being honest. Like Treant Monk, especially, he's been following each of the review. Basically, he's been doing a review off of each of the released classes. One of the notable ones, and one of the ones that has gotten some of the highest positive reviews from playtesters, is the Monk class. And we all know, if you've played D&D for the last 10 years, the Monk has absolutely been dog shit. Rules is written. Great concept, great themes, mechanics, system mechanics, fucking trash. But apparently, with the 2024 edition, they fixed a lot of that. And from what I've heard and what I've seen personally, they did kind of address some of the issues. One of the ones that comes off the top of my head is the key, or as they're calling it now, the focus points issue has been addressed with things like, let's see, Step of the Wind, I believe. Oh, there goes Matt. Step of the Wind, I believe it's called. Again, I'm trying to remember all this off the top of my head, and I am sporting a headache. But basically, actions that the monk had access to, but would have to spend key points to do, with a limited key point pool, especially at early levels. They've addressed a lot. Like there's 3 different actions. I think Step in the Wind, on God, I should have wrote this shit down. But basically, they've gotten rid of that, and they've kind of turned them into sort of similar to a rogue's cunning action. Like the rogue can take dodge, disengage, and hide as bonus actions. Something similar to that, but not 100% that way. So that's one of the fixes they've done to make monks better. And you guys could take over and go and do other stuff.
One of the things that I really liked was the bonus action unarmed strike. And there's a couple ways that this is actually made better. One is that you no longer have to do your main attack action to then use your bonus action for the unarmed attack. You can do that bonus action unarmed attack as a monk whenever you want, which opens up your options quite a lot. Like you could start with that, you could do a completely different action and then use your bonus action for the unarmed attack. That kind of thing is actually what I liked about what Baldur's Gate 3 did with dual wielding in general, for like everyone, where like you could use that bonus action attack without using your main action for an attack. It was very nice that kind of gave you a little more options in how to play and use that bonus action. So I'm glad to see that kind of come through on the monk. And some other things they could do with that unarmed attack, which is expanded upon, is that you can actually, I believe they said you could actually, with an unarmed attack, if you didn't want to do damage, you could also attempt a shove or a grapple.
Yes.
So unarmed attacks can now essentially do 3 things, and with the monk, I think this is new. I don't know if this was in 5e. I'm not a monk expert in 5e, so I don't have the best frame of reference. But they allow you to use the monk's dexterity for those shoves and grapples, because normally those are strength based.
Used to be strength based.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
now your monk.
Yeah.
So now monks can grapple people. They can shove them away. And it's like, so their unarmed strikes and what they can do they have so many more options in what they can do and how they go about their turn with just that. And that's a pretty huge thing right there, honestly.
Well, what it also does is, monks were notoriously mad or multiple ability score dependent, meaning you had to have a decent dex score, you had to have a decent con score, and a decent wisdom score.
Oh yeah.
So to affect things like strength, strength based, like attacks, or if you want to do like a strength monk, you couldn't, because you just didn't have the points unless you were doing I can't remember what it's called, but basically rolling the 46, dropping the lowest, and got really good rolls across the board. Because if you're doing like standard array or point buy, you just weren't gonna have, you're always gonna have dump stats.
Yeah.
But again, all across the board, the monk was just always mad. Now, because they've changed some of those things to be dex, they're still gonna kind of be a little mad, but they've definitely done a good job of trying to lessen that burden of having to have high dex, high dex, high wisdom, and high constitution. So kudos for them for that. But also, again, making it where monks can do more than just punch shit, and it'd be effective, because being shoved, you can even trip or not. You can knock enemies prone with some of these attacks now. That allows the monk's other attacks. This is all before even taking the attack action. And again, guys, this is just one example of the improvements made. This allows the monk to be more effective and more versatile in combat, which ideally is kind of what the theme calls to, is being an effective, a versatile and effective fighter.
Definitely. Like, imagine using at the start of a turn, use your bonus action unarmed strike to shove. With the shove, you can either move them or knock them prone. So first thing you do is you knock them prone with the bonus action, and then you use your attack action to melee attack them. And because they're prone, you got advantage for those attacks now. That's actually pretty good.
Sounds like
That's
a
really
bully.
good.
Sounds like a bully to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
That's right.
You push them down, just start kicking them.
And I mean, and not
Like
only
the
not
bully
only
on
do
the
you have attack,
playground, pin the little kid down.
Exactly.
Give me your lunch
I
money.
chose-
you have advantage.
I chose playground bully subclass.
Yep, that's right.
Wow.
But not only do you have advantage, now your rogue, who's coming in for that sneak attack, has advantage. Like it allows more interplay for this particular character class, which really, I mean, the monk was arguably the worst class in 5e for the entirety of 5e. The only thing I think can give it a run for its money was the ranger. And we're going to talk about that one probably next video, because from what I've been hearing, the ranger got some love, but
Maybe not the right love.
yeah, probably not.
That's a shame. But if it at least the monk is getting better.
I gotta see this, because I've sat through some of these reviews and looking at some of the changes they've made to the monk, and I could see how you could be excited about it for sure, but it really, the more I listen and look at this, I mean, it looks like the monk went from being a dud to a superhero. It's like they said, you want this thing to be super powered, so here you go, take all of it. Because
So you think they gave it a little?
I do. I think they overpowered it. There's quite a bit of randomness when it comes to all the different classes and subclasses and whatnot when it comes to D&D at this point. But I'm concerned. I want to see it, maybe even try playing it just to see what it's like. But it definitely sounds to me like if you're into power gaming and you really just want to be out there whooping ass on everything all the time, sounds to me like you need to play a monk now.
Which, I mean, I guess we'll see.
I don't get into that. That's not my thing. I don't want to be. We had a conversation about this earlier about the weakest member of the team versus if you know you're playing a character that is obviously the most useless character in the group, that can be entertaining as well. But yeah, does it potentially get grueling over time? Sure.
It really depends on the player for that kind of thing.
Right.
If you can get into that role play, the storytelling, but
well, you don't have to. Here's the thing: you don't have to play that character. I mean, okay, so your character's a pussy. You don't have to play them like they are. Seriously,
Yeah.
I mean,
No, I agree.
You could easily have the little dog syndrome. I mean, come on, go for it, do it.
Go to like Napoleon Complex. Like again, there are ways to be fun with it, but I mean, when it comes to D&D, it's one part storytelling, one part I should say game mechanics. So like ideally both are good. So
Ideally,
when it comes to the monk, what we're talking about right now is relying purely telling bit to make it fun because the mechanics aren't. Because that's what we're talking about, and that there is a problem with that. That
True.
is something that should be fixed, and I'm hoping with this that they have. And again, based on what you're saying, Greg, you're worried that it might be overpowered now,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll see. Right now, they've been talking about all these different classes, but we only know about them right now in isolation. We don't know yet how they interact with each other,
Right.
how they'll each do an actual combat. So there's a lot we don't really know yet. We just have these kind of vague ideas, like how we think this would look on paper, essentially. But in practice, only playtesters really know.
Well,
I'm hoping
and
it's
from
good,
from what I understand, the playtesters don't really know because what they playtested is actually, in many cases, quite different from what actually is in the system. So, which is, I mean, that's not uncommon when it comes to playtesting. Hey, we've
Oh,
been
yeah.
there before.
Different groups may get like a different version of something, get
Yeah.
feedback, and the company will be like, okay, based on feedback, we're going to go with this version. So maybe one group did play test what will eventually be the in the actual mode, and maybe some other groups played something that isn't going to make it to the final product. Yeah, that does happen. But I mean, from what we've been able to tell so far, the reception to the new monk does seem fairly positive. Uh, I haven't heard anything yet about people saying that's probably going to be overpowered. So
I'm gonna
we'll
hold,
see how things shake out.
I'm gonna hold out for my own opinion. I'm not accepting anybody else's.
Well, it comes out in what? The Player's Handbook's September?
Mhm.
So we got about 2 months to figure out.
I do think that's, you and I've had this conversation about reviews before, and I don't want to go down that path, but I do think that here's the thing, and the reason why I asked you the question, Rob, is because reviews tend to steer people. That's the part of the idea behind it. And especially these early access reviews, which are very controlled generally. You're going to get the best picture on there, no matter what they're telling. Well, yeah, they told us to be very honest and do the. If I'm a reviewer for your game and I you tell me to be really honest, and I'm like, well, okay, and then I go tell my audience, this game really kind of sucks. You think I'm going to be reviewing any more of those games?
True.
Yeah.
I hate this. I don't like that. That's garbage. This is crap. How much of that can you do before the developers, the promoters, the marketing people are going to be looking at that like, yeah, we don't want this guy doing it anymore.
Yeah. So obviously, like, you take things with a grain of salt, but again, like, they were able to put out a video talking about things, and you kind of hear it for yourself what they're talking about, the changes to the monk.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I'm hopeful, but like, you are right, Greg. Don't never buy fully into what someone else is saying. You can hear it, you can take it into account, but don't swear by it. It's not like it's not law.
Yeah.
It's just someone's opinion, which, like anyone's opinion, can be faulty.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, I'm hoping the best for the monk, because it's always been a class I've been interested in, but just the mechanics behind it have kept me from making a character for it. But if that's fixed, who knows? For 2024 D&D, I might be making myself a monk.
There's been a lot of there's been several iterations of the monk. Ever since it was, and I'm not sure if it was introduced before this, but it was for sure introduced in Oriental Adventures, which is a second edition onto the D&D game. And even, I mean, that wasn't so bad, but I mean, it's never really been what you envision a monk being. When you think of a monk, you tend to think of like the Shaolin, Ip Man, that kind of thing. When you think of a monk. And this has been more like the early 2000s TV show Monk with the yeah, that guy.
Yeah, Detective.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, that's a good show. That's a really good show. I don't know if you've actually watched it, Greg.
Don't think I would want him fighting dragons, though. I mean.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Just saying.
No, I think he would die a horrible death.
So maybe this monk.
Who would want to punch a dragon?
The monk.
Exactly. Like, the monk or punching finding these giant monsters that everyone else is using these legendary equipment, and like, I got my fist.
Mhm.
That's the ideal, like, to be badass that way. Like, I don't need a weapon. I got hands.
Ruin.
Let's yeah, let's fucking throw down, man. That's what the monk should be. Whether it's I think a lot of the flavor for what kind of like fighter you are is in the subclass. Whether you are that typical like kind of Shaolin monk archetype, or
I seriously debated on making Bruin a monk when I created that character. I seriously debated on it.
Our D&D campaign.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta. I think you're a fighter and you have a certain fighting style that gives you like a 1d8 for your unarmed strike attacks, right?
Yep.
So yeah, which is pretty decent, and I'm glad there's not just one way to do like unarmed fighting.
Right.
So that you don't have to be a monk to be an unarmed fighter, which is fun, which is good because I mean, if you're a fighter, the whole thing of the fighter is being able to use like just about any martial weapon and fight any kind of way that they can using the martial skills. That's why they can use just about every single weapon in the game.
Scrapper.
And so I feel like, yeah, unarmed also should be something they're good at. So I'm glad that option exists. But yeah, just unarmed fighting, everyone loves that shit, So I'm glad that it's getting some love, because everybody loves kung fu fighting.
We get sick of all these sissy magic users.
Cast Fist. Granted, Monk has their own, they have their own powers, so it's not like they're completely unmatchable themselves.
Yeah, no.
I think they did decide to change their point system from key to what they're calling it now, focus.
Yeah.
Monk they're calling it focus now instead of key, which, okay, I guess. I kind of like key because it was kind of in theme with what the monk does. I guess focus also kind of is.
Well, and see, I think though that it's things like that created that vision of what the monk was supposed to be, because they're using Kai as key, whatever, as
that is Eastern.
Right, in the verbiage, so you automatically start to picture, you build this picture of the the Shaolin monk or whatever it happens to be. Watch any Bruce Lee movie. There you go.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Kind of opens up the.
You start changing the verbiage on it some, right, and moving it away a little bit, and it helps people disconnect from that idea and reconnect with something new.
Yeah, because the different subclasses have different flavors for the monk, which I think it was called Warrior of the Open Hand. Is that one where it is that kind of stereotypical Shaolin monk type, kung fu master?
Right.
But there have different aesthetics, like. I think they're talking about like where the shadow or whatever that's called for the monk, some kind of shadow-based subclass, which they're talking about. This would be like kind of like a ninja feel or something like that.
I do like the fact that they are synchronizing the names when it comes to the subclasses now, so that they make they make more sense and they're relative to the main class. Which is something that they've done with the classes in 2024, the monk in particular. But
it does help when you look at a subclass and just based off of its title, you'd be like, oh, that's for this class because it has that naming convention.
Right.
Kind of like how druids always have circle of whatever. Or I guess most wizard subclasses, some of the newer ones kind of fall away from that, but school of whatever type of magic,
right?
Again, they kind of fall away from that as have like blade singing and other subclasses, but at the beginning they stuck to that. So I do agree with that kind of naming convention. Be like, yeah, this subclass belongs to that class. You don't have to like look up.
Show enough. I remember that. Damn, I'm gonna tell on myself, but I remember that movie, Unholy Pawn. used to be one of my favorites.
Is that one before my time?
Yeah, it's before your time.
Oh, Last
Yep.
Dragon, 85. Okay, yeah, that's before my time.
It's before my time too, but I watched it as a kid.
It's closer to yours than it is mine.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Sure enough.
yeah. So Monk definitely seen improvements. Too much, enough. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
But
And they're not the only ones.
know-
There's tons of classes that got
Yeah.
some change up. Some more than others. Like I heard the sorcerer got a good bit of change up. The cleric, which they just released today, from the general consensus, I haven't watched the video yet, but from the comment section that I read through, didn't really get touched too much. Which, to be honest, I think from my perspective, the cleric, with the exception of a couple of the subclasses, base cleric and most of the base subclasses, we're all pretty solid. We're all
Yeah,
pretty solid.
I mean, not everything needs a major overhaul, and that's fine.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
fix the things that need fixing, and
Yeah.
leave some things the same when they don't really need to be changed.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, that's the big piece there
Healing.
with iteration.
Oh yeah, healing was increased across the board, which is nice
That-
because I mean,
That was needed because that shit was fucking useless.
yeah, like healing is an important ability, and like I get part of the intent was probably not to let battles like drag on too long by just people just playing too defensively and just healing each other up constantly. I get that, but there's also when you're in that pinch situation, like, using your turn to heal your allies to keep them alive is definitely something you want to feel clutch in, and not just like immediately see that HP you healed for done away with in one single attack, and possibly that attack will probably do more damage than you even healed for. So it's like, well, what did I spend my turn doing? I should have just attacked instead of supporting my allies. So buffing the healing a bit, I'm behind that. I am. Kind of make it feel a little more worth playing that support role. Because yeah, healing word, it's nice that it's a bonus action, but a 1d4, you're not getting much out of that. It's a very it's equivalent, it's a mama's kiss for your boo boo. That's about all it amounted to.
Here's a Band-Aid.
Pretty much.
No Neosporin for you.
Yeah, so it didn't feel very impactful.
Yeah. No, the healing honestly was not that was definitely a problem for 5e. The healing sucked.
It just got people from 0 up to 0.
Right. Well,
that was honestly healing word's best use right there.
It made it difficult for people to want to play a cleric, because you don't necessarily have, now depending upon the subclasses you take, you don't necessarily have great martial abilities. So your abilities are, you're about healing and buffing the party. That's what you do. You know what I mean? You manipulate the battle basically. And when that stuff gets nerfed, it's like, okay, what is the point of having cleric? Because my buffs don't really do much, and my healing sucks. So
it's like looking at your spell slots. Like, I could do this type of heal for the spell slot and do this much healing, or do this much more damage. And here's the thing: damage is usually going to be higher than healing on a one-to-one basis, with the plus side of healing being that you're not going to roll to heal people. Like, it just happens. It's consistent. Meanwhile, on an offensive action, that could very easily fail. That's part of that kind of relationship between healing and damage that you see in just about every game.
Mm-hmm.
However, it was definitely skewed off from what you normally see in 5e, to where damage was that much higher and healing was that much lower beyond that normal relationship. And so healing just didn't feel worth it a lot of times. It's mostly like, hey, it's either extreme emergency, like, using the healing word when someone's like dying to get them back, or if it's like, hey, fight's over now, let me patch you up a little bit. Yeah, in the case you don't have enough time for like a short or long rest, but you have a moment.
Right.
So yeah, I think that was definitely a really good move to buff healing.
What I have a random complaint I want to share here. And
By all means.
that's really about. Here's the thing. Not every encounter, okay? Not every encounter has to be a hit dice match. Okay? And I see that happen way, way too much, where, this thinking behind that, anytime the party gets into a fight, I have, as a GM, I have to match the hit dice. So if your hit dice is whatever 50, then I gotta throw 50 hit dice worth of monsters at you. No, you don't. That's my rant, my complaint.
Yeah, I mean, it does kind of it matters based on what kind of encounter you're planning. Like, is this one that is supposed to be even, or is this supposed to be one that, like, maybe you want the players to breeze through this one because you got more down the line.
It is.
This is just a minor thing, or go to the other side where, like, this is supposed to be too difficult for them, meaning that either they're going to have to be played really well to succeed at this, or they need to retreat.
I have always found it most entertaining as a GM to throw something at the party where, let them be the heroes for a little while. That way, when they run into something really tough, it's a humbling moment.
Yeah, get them to think they're hot shit before you tell them sit down.
Right, exactly. Not every fight is a grudge match. Every fight is just like, am I gonna win or am I? Nah, let them have some gravy once in a while, before you throw them at the mashed potatoes. But
yeah, yeah, and like, it is important to balance your encounters. Like, you definitely don't want to make it so hard to where, like, they just get fucking one shot before they even have a chance to realize. I mean, I would say you give them ample chance to realize that they're outmatched before they get one shot.
I think there should be some clear idea that there's potential for them to be one shot. That way they're making a decision for themselves.
True.
It's honestly
the GM to communicate that.
But exactly, it's kind of that sense of realism. Like, I'm going to go stand on the train tracks while the train is coming, and I have no hope, kind of thing.
Look, my barbarian, I'm going to enter rage, get resistance to bludgeoning damage because I know that train's about to hit me with bludgeoning. If my high HP pool, Yep. I'd say Barbarian has a chance. Him at least. Barbarian can hit terminal velocity and survive that fall damage with rage. But I think
only in D&D, but yeah.
Yeah, only in D&D. But that's the fun of the Barbarian right there.
Yeah.
That's the fun of that class. As simple as it is, it's fun just to be that big stupid meat sack that just won't fucking die. But yeah, for the most part, like, if you do have anything that's gonna, like, potentially one-shot a player, not saying don't put that in your game, but as DM, you need to make sure that you communicate that to your players. Like, even go so far as like, okay, bro, are you sure you want to do this? Are you sure?
I try.
Yes.
I try.
Okay. And it's sometimes they still do it, and if you communicated it as best you could,
well, then if they get one shot, that's their problem. Not, that's not. Hey, you you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I mean, that's how it works.
True story.
Yeah.
True story.
yeah, like if you did your job to communicate it effectively, then the ball's then in their court to be like, it's like, I think I'm getting the subtle hints my D&D, my dungeon master is giving me. Maybe, just maybe, we should back off here.
Yes.
But that's just part of the relationship and balancing that dungeon masters have to deal with. A lot of communication, a lot of
right. Well, and it's
a lot of work.
Knowing your audience as well, because I mean, it's it's important. Well, as the GM, it's important to make sure that the thing behind it is to make an engaging story and to make sure your players are having fun. That's what they're there to do. You know what I mean? If you're playing a horror game or telling a horror story, then that's the purpose behind it. You're telling a horror story. If you're playing a fantasy game, then what do you expect it to be? It should be a fantasy game. Doesn't mean that people don't, that characters don't do stupid stuff and end up dying in a fantasy game. That should always be a possibility. I think when you take away that possibility, ultimately you kill the storytelling piece to it, because there's nothing there to inspire the player to actually look at the situation tactfully and say, you know what, this is a bad idea. But everything in that is inspiring them to say, fuck it, I'm just gonna do whatever. Let's just go jump off the cliff that's at 1,600 feet and expect that I'm gonna hit the bottom running. No, you're not. I'm sorry. Did I just kill it? Was that the killing blow right there?
No.
The only thing we're killing is our players.
Yep. That's right. That's right. That's the only thing we're gonna be putting down.
I have been killed more times by. I think I've been killed more times by you, Matt, than I've killed your characters.
I've killed you once. When else have I killed one of your characters?
It sure feels like more than once.
That's on you then. I've only done to you once.
I think he's telling the truth. I think Matt is actually telling the truth.
Yeah, he might be. I haven't killed any of his characters,
though. It was Pirate Borg. That was it.
And now I have to get revenge.
What do you mean? Alien. Do you remember how that
yes.
Everyone.
Yes.
You got everyone with that.
that was I actually am quite proud of that story, because I think that was actually a really good story, and I think that the players, all of you guys in that story, really made a really good story out of it. Yeah, it's something that everyone dies in Alien. Yeah, I mean, you can't live through Alien. Only Sigourney Weaver does that.
Well, maybe next time I'm going to play Sigourney Weaver. Not the character she plays. I'm just going to play Sigourney Weaver, the person.
I'm down with that. If we play Alien again.
I'm just an actor. I don't know what to do here.
Oh God.
No, I did. I enjoyed our short run with Alien. That was actually.
It was a good one. It was a good one.
Yep.
I'm kind of salty my pilot died, but it happens.
All I can say is that my character didn't die.
Well, you're the DM, so technically a lot of your characters die.
Usually, right. Most they're all cannon fodder. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, the alien died. I mean, maybe. I don't know. They can live in outer space, so I mean, maybe he didn't die. Maybe he just.
It's hard to kill those things.
Yeah, I mean that could be part 2. Revenge. Well, Captain Rex will come back with a new crew.
Wow, that's pretty shitty.
think
Sure.
if that happens, then us players will be getting our revenge on him for
Yeah.
leaving us.
Wow.
Yep.
It's
Wow.
like, yeah, I know this is metagaming, but fuck this guy. We're killing him.
Yeah, yeah. But you know what? This one time I'll let it slide.
I won't tell
Somehow,
you.
somewhere.
I won't tell you that you guys weren't the first crew. Then I mean.
Oh wow. Man, he's a repeat offender. Jeez. He's got a habit.
You guys, come on now. You liked Rex, didn't you?
I mean, yeah, up until
Up until the
Yeah.
very end, yeah. Rex was a cool character, and then he made one decision that y'all are like, oh, that's horrible.
Yes.
You're a
Because
bad
he didn't
person.
have to make the decision. That's why. It's one thing if he had to, but he didn't have to.
That's your perspective. I mean,
But anyway, I think that about wraps up what we kind of have on the docket to talk about tonight.
yeah, we're wandering off into different space here. So
Space.
At this point, we're just chatting.
Which is okay. But yeah. Guys, yeah, that kind of wraps up episode 60. Thank you guys for coming out again, as always. You know, it's always good to have you here. It was good to see you guys in the chat. Hopefully you guys had some fun, as always. Next, some housekeeping. Greg, I'm pretty sure. I don't think we will be doing a stream tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow. We need to get the BOR fired back up here. So next Thursday will be the BOR episode 7 for season 2. So
Yeah. So, guys, just so you know, the reason why we haven't been having game streams is we are doing a little bit of restructuring on that front. So, keep your ear out to the ground. We've mentioned it a couple times already, but that's the long and short of it. We're doing a bit of restructuring, and hopefully we come back with you guys will enjoy. Again, going through a different process, so bear with us. Next episode will be episode 61 of the episode 61 of the update log. Next Wednesday, as always, 8 o'clock EST. We'll be diving into everything game related, both on the TTRPG side and the video game side.
and whatever else happens to come up.
Yeah, whatever else we decide to talk about.
Awesome. So thank you very much, everybody, for being here tonight. Much appreciated. We would love to see you next Wednesday night. Please do check out, if you haven't, join our Discord. Get connected. Also check out our YouTube page for
Please do, yes.
You got anything, Matt?
Nah,
Okay.
nothing for me.
Everybody have a good night.